Hey guys, this is Tim from Decoding Panels under the Codex Podcast banner. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you know when we've got this and other great stories coming your way, along with new episodes of the Codex Podcast. All right, ready? Sit back, relax, and let's do this. Hey guys, welcome back to a special episode of Decoding Panels. We are at the 20th anniversary of the attack of September 11th, 2001. Guys, this is a special issue for a lot of us, for a lot of people, because of what it talks about and how the Marvel Universe dealt with the events that took place that day. Now, the issue was written by J. Michael Straczynski. Artwork is done by John Romita Jr. Inks by Scott Hanna. Colors are by Avalon's Dan Kemp. And letters are by Comic Crafts, Wes and Rich. Now, first off, I want you guys to be able to go ahead and check out the Codex Podcast, episode number 13, for Jamie and Sonny's in-depth review and discussion of this issue in particular. Now, the thing I want you guys to do is I want you to tell your story. Where were you that day? And why don't you go ahead and tell it to me and Jamie and Sonny in the comment section of this video. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you where I was that day. So, September 11th, 2001, I was living in Michigan at the time, and it was a day like any other. I was sleeping in. Me and the two guys I lived with the night before had drank really cheap beer and were having a real good time. And I was passed out in my room. And a friend of mine gave me a call right after the first tower had been hit. And he called me and he was frantic on the phone. And he's like, dude, Tim, we're under attack. The World Trade Center has been hit by an airplane. And I'm half asleep. And I'm like, what in the hell are you talking about? He's like, I'm coming over to get you. And this was a guy that I hung out with like all the time, every day. Him and I would play video games together, and we role played together with my brother and other friends and stuff like that. So we were really close. And he came over, and on his way over, I turned on the radio and started listening to a news broadcaster talking about what was going on. And he sounded just as confused as I did with what was taking place and all that stuff. And I think at that time they were talking about like a small engine prop plane that had hit the towers, and they didn't understand that it was a jet airliner at that time. So my buddy comes over and he picks me up, and the whole ride over to his place, this is like 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, you know, way early in the morning, especially for me. And all we're doing is we're just sitting there in his car, going through the small town that I lived in, listening to the radio and listening to these people talk. And when we got to his place, instantly we put on the television. I mean, we didn't know what else to do, so we turned on the television and we were flipping through cable television, and every single channel, MTV, Home Shopping Network, Cartoon Network at the time, and all these other channels were all showing the same stuff. It was either one of the big three or Fox or CNN or whatever, but it was on everything, and everybody was watching it. You couldn't get away from it. And I sat there at his apartment and watched the second plane hit the towers. And after that, I told him that I wanted to go to my dad's house. This is me, 22-year-old man, and the only thing I wanted to do was be near my dad. My dad is a military veteran. He served for 6 years in the Army as a military police and a drill sergeant. And I wanted to be near somebody that had the type of security that I wanted at that time, because I had turned into a scared kid. And that's what I was, 22-year-old scared kid. And he's like, yeah, absolutely, man. And he took me over to my dad's house and dropped me off. And I sat there with my dad, retired Army vet, and watched both towers fall, watched people jumping out of the buildings, and every other horrific thing that took place that day. And like everybody else, you're just in shock. And it's such a traumatic event to watch, even though you're not there. You know, for the people that were there, I can't even imagine what you guys had to go through, or the people that were in Washington or in New York City or in Pennsylvania. I can't even begin to fathom what you went through that day. But what I went through that day, 1,000 miles away in small town America, watching this on television, hearing my dad talking about how we're going to turn whoever did this country into a glass factory. And I'm just sitting there in shock, 22 years old, and all I want to do is crawl into a ball and cry, because I'd never seen anything like this before. This was unreal. And that's what brings us to this. Amazing Spider-Man number 36. This came out a month after the events took place. And people like us, you know, at the time, we needed something. We needed somebody to tell us, hey, you know, it's okay. We got you. And that's what Marvel did. And Straczynski's words in this and Romita's pictures are absolutely amazing. And if you've read the issue, you know what I'm talking about. This is Marvel's response to what happened. DC had their own response, and other companies and corporations had their own response too. But this is what Marvel did. And like Sonny said in the podcast, episode number 13, this is a book that will go down forever in history as one of the greatest comic books ever written for one of the most traumatic events in modern history. And without further ado, we will go into Amazing Spider-Man number 36. We interrupt our regularly scheduled program to bring you the following special bulletin. My God, what you see before you is beyond words, beyond comprehension, beyond forgiveness. Peter Parker tells us this story today. Spider-Man swings in. Where were you? How could you let something like this happen? People say this as they run for their lives. He looks back at them for a moment before looking forward. What can he say? They had no idea. None of them did. This is something nobody could have even imagined. Only evil men, madmen, could think up something like this. Only those men could have executed it, and only those men could have flown the planes. A sane world will always be vulnerable to the insane, to madness, because we cannot go where these people can to do the unthinkable. None of them could have seen this coming. They couldn't have been here in time to stop it. They couldn't. But they're here now. You can't see them because of the dust, and you can't hear them over the cries, but they are there. Dr. Doom, Kingpin, Magneto, those they thought were enemies are here, because something like this transcends borders and rivalry. The story of humanity isn't written in towers, castles, or hidden bases, but in tears, in blood and bone. And even in the worst of us, there is still a voice that says, this is not right. Because no matter how scarred some of us may be, we are still human. We still feel, and most of all, we still mourn the death of innocence. We are here, but Even with their powers and abilities, they pale in comparison to the true heroes of that day. Those that run into the face of danger without armor or fear. Those who step into the darkness without knowing if they'll ever come back out. But they know people are there that need their help. People are there waiting for salvation, for a word of comfort, for justice. Ordinary men and women made extraordinary by acts of compassion, selflessness, and courage. A sacrifice by ordinary men and women refusing to surrender. We voted. We're going to try and take back the plane. It's the only way to stop them from hitting Washington. I love you. I love you too. Ordinary men and women refusing to listen to and accept self-proclamation from talking heads everywhere that said we had this coming. Religious and political, right and left, extremist and pacifist. Anyone who said that it was God's will, or anyone that said it was because of someone's sexual orientation, or the color of their skin, or the choices we, as people, as Americans, make for ourselves. We reject them because we know our tragedy is greater than the sum of our transgressions. We watch bodies fall on the evening news. Shouts in mosques, destroying centuries of prayer and forgetting crusades from the past. The most harmed are the least deserving. A child waits for his father, who had gone in to help, to rescue, to do what he could. He said he'd be back in a minute, to stay here. Spider-Man tells him this isn't a good place to be right now. But if the kid waits, his dad will know where he'll be. He said he'd only be a minute. A child screams for his father. Spider-Man has no words. The death of the innocent and of innocence itself. Rage enough to shut out the sun. The air is filled with questions. Is it going to happen again? What do I tell my children? Why did this happen? Why? My God, why? Spider-Man has walked with gods, been to other worlds, but here he has no answers. He's the only one who's been here before. Spider-Man can't fathom right now seeing this once. He can't imagine seeing it twice. He just can't imagine. What do you tell the children? Do you tell them that evil is foreign? No. Evil is the thought behind a face. It can be anybody. Do we tell them evil is defined by borders, destinations, geometry? No. They'll have enough nightmares as it is. Maybe they tell them they're sorry. Sorry they couldn't give them a world they deserved. That our ability to shout is not the equal of our ability to listen. That the burdens of distant people are now our responsibility, or they'll one day become our tragedy. Or maybe we just tell them that we love them, that we'll protect them, that we would give our lives for them and do it without hesitation. In a world of Nintendo Switches, Xboxes, and Blu-rays, it may seem like nothing, but love is the only gift we can give to wipe away the tears and mend wounds to make this as sane a world as we can to live in. They couldn't see it coming. None of them could. But they're here now, with you. Today, tomorrow, and every day after that. They live in each blow struck for justice, but always in the hopes of wisdom. They live as well in the voice of conscience. that says all wars have innocence, that says you are a kind and merciful people, the voice that says do not do as they do, or all is lost before it even begins. Don't let knowledge be washed away in blood. Wherever you move, wherever you go, they will be with you. Because the future belongs to us, ordinary men and women, and it must be built free of acts like these and renewed like fresh water. A message must be sent to those who mistake compassion for weakness, sent across 6,000 years of blood and struggle. And that message is this: whatever our history, our last names, we are good and decent. We do not bow down, nor do we give up. The fire of the human spirit cannot be brought down by bombs or body counts, and it cannot be silenced or drowned by tears. We have gone through worse before, and we will bear the burden of what comes next, because that's what ordinary men and women do, no matter what. This hasn't weakened us. It has only made us stronger. We have been tribalized and factionalized by 1,000 acts of unkindness, but here we are one. We stand together. We have become one in our grief. We are now determined. As one we recover. As one we rebuild. You wanted to send a message, and in so doing wakened us from our own self-involvement. Look for our response in the thunder. Heroes are born in days like these, but not superheroes. No. The true heroes of the new millennium, the human singular, you, who are more noble and stronger than you think. You, the hero of the moment, chosen out of history. We are blinded by the light of unbroken will. No darkness can come there. They knocked down 2 towers. In their memory, a covenant is drafted in conscience that what we create next, such things as this, will not need to occur. We will not need to apologize to our children, but we will also not build the new roads with the husks of their rights. They knocked down 2 towers, but now we need to become the girders, the glass, the concrete, so that when the world sees us, it sees them. We need to stand tall. Stand tall. Guys, thanks for sitting through and listening to me tell this story to you. This is one of the most powerful issues that I have ever read. And like Sonny said in the Codex podcast, this is an issue that will go down in history. And I firmly believe that. So what I want you guys to do today is, if you have brothers or sisters, moms or dads, cousins, nieces, nephews, sons or daughters, I want you to give them a hug. And I want you to tell them you love them. Because, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And don't make the last day that you see somebody be a day that isn't a good one. So, tell them you love them and take care of yourself, too. If you liked what you saw and you heard here today, please be sure to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and hit the notification bell so that way you'll know when the next episode comes out for Decoding Panels and the Codex podcast. As always, guys, my name is Tim. This is Decoding Panels under the Codex podcast banner, and I will see you next time.